It's Sunday. You know what that means. Time for the latest installment of the Belt Chronicles, and this week we are looking at the WWF tags. Now, we're not going to get into the WWE tags. Not in this video. We can do that at a later date. These are strictly WWF tags. And so we're going to start in the mid 80s. I know there's like the Soul Patrol versions, the kind of the red strap, the Wild Samoans had those. I might do a separate video on those at some point, but we're focusing on strictly like 1985-ish until 2002. So the first set of belts that we're going to focus on are the mid 80s, like the US Express. And that is Mike Rotundo and Barry Windham with their manager Lou Albano, who at the time Mike Rotundo was going as a name Mike Rotundo. But the U.S. Express, these were, I don't know this for sure, but everything, the characteristics of the belt tells me it's a Reggie Parks made belt. They just look the part. They have the 2x8 female snaps, 2x8 male snaps. 2x8 male snaps, 2x5 female snaps. They have the exo tooling that the Red NWA would have, the Hogan 86 would have. I'm trying to think what else. The Bulldog tags, which we'll get to in a second. Black backing, so and nickel plates, and they do bear a striking resemblance to the NWA National Tag Team Championships that they had right around the same time. And you'll notice it because I have pictures I'm putting up right now. It's funny. I actually had one of these pictures on my phone for a while because it's one of the only times you'll ever see Ole Anderson actually smiling. So the next set of belts are the Bulldog tag belts, and they're named that primarily because they were held by the British Bulldogs, Dynamite Kid and Davey Boy Smith. And these run all the way up. I just watched WrestleMania 3 the other day, bits and pieces, and Bret Hart and Neidhart had them at WrestleMania 3, and that was in 87. Trying to think who else had them. So you had the Hart Foundation, you had the Bulldogs, and you had the Dream Team of Beefcake and Valentine. And then you also had Strike Force, which was Tito and Rick Martel. Those are, again, exo tooling around the entire perimeter of the strap. And 2x5 on the female snaps. Again, 2x8 on the male snaps. Black backing. These are 5-plate belts. They're all nickel plated. There's no gold. There's no property plate. There's no belt tip. They are currently, at least one of them, I've seen a photo. I'll put that up right now on the screen. One of them, at least, is owned by WWE and is in like that big like flight case where you can see all the belts that are TV used and that should be on display in a Hall of Fame somewhere, but WWE doesn't take the initiative to go build one. They're in the custody of WWE. At least one of them is. The next version is the dual-plated version. So when I think of the dual-plated belts, I think of Tully and Arn, the Brainbusters, and I think of Demolition. And these belts are, again, like I said, dual-plated. It's the first time you would see clamshell tooling. And the clamshell doesn't hug the side plates like it does on mine. It extends past the side plates a little bit. It's kind of elongated. No property plate on the dual-plated tags. Instead, you had WWF embossed, the logo embossed into the leather. 2x5 female snaps again, 2x8 male snaps, black backing. This is the first belt you'll see with a belt tip that Reggie did. Not the first belt entirely, but the first set of tag belts that had a belt tip. Unless I'm wrong. I believe these are the first. And I heard a story. I want to say it was Sunset Flip Reviews. But the story is the way Reggie Parks got the idea for doing belt tips was the bottom side of like mud flaps on the backs of wheels of like semi-trucks, 18-wheelers. That's how he got the idea to do belt tips on the end of a belt. And one other thing I noticed, this is for you leather guys out there. The top on a dual-plated tag belt, the very top is not rounded like this. It is more flat. It is kind of like, I guess, the not entirely as flat as the Intercontinental would be, but you can see it doesn't have a really high peak, and that it'll definitely have a contrast to later versions. So, speaking of later versions, we're gonna jump around a little bit. This ain't gonna go in chronological order. It's just we're gonna go based on what I have in my notes here. So I'm gonna jump to the Legion of Doom version, the one that Hawk and Animal had, obviously, and because it feeds into the next version that I'm going to talk about, and those, from what I can tell, are still 2x5 and 2x8 on the snap count. Have belt tips. They have property plates now. They, unless I'm wrong about that, I'm pretty sure they have property plates on this version of the belt, but I will double check and put a picture up. Okay. And they have more squared side plates. If you look at the side plates, they don't have this rounded dome top like mine does. They are more square on not only the inner side plate, but also the outer side plate. And the reason why I say it factors into the next version we're going to talk about is because the story that I've heard, which I only heard it recently, is from Hazard F5 on one of his shorter videos, his like 1 minute shorts. He said the reason why the Money Inc. tag team belts look the way they do and happened the way they happened was because Hawk went to Japan and gave the owner of Ribera's Steakhouse, which is a famous steakhouse for wrestlers like Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen, Terry Funk, those guys, like obviously Hawk and Animal, they all eat there after their matches or while they're over visiting in Japan. He gave the owner his WWF tag belt. So he comes back with no tag belt, right? And they had a scramble. So what they did was, I think they repurposed an old tag belt, and that became the Money Inc. tag belts. You see them with, obviously, DiBiase and IRS, but you also see them with Earthquake and Typhoon, the natural disasters. And those do have a belt tip, because in my mind's eye right now, I got Jimmy Hart holding up the belts. 2x5 on the female snaps. They do have a property plate. And what makes them different is, number one, the globe, the world, is painted in black instead of red. And the side plates for each belt are mismatched with the other belt. So I'll put a photo up to explain what I'm talking about. DiBiase and IRS are on your screen right now. Look at the side plates on the belt. Notice they're different from belt to belt. One of them has the rounded top side plates, and the other one has the more square side plates. That's because they had a scramble. I don't know if they called Reggie or if they already had a belt that they had retired and they decided to bring it back. But they had a scramble to get a second tag belt because of what Hawk had done. So that is on the Money Inc. It's still 2x5 and 2x8. It's all gold with black backing. And the leather cut is back to being rounded. And then from there, we're going to go to the Steiner's version, which is, again, 2x5 and 2x8, black backing, all gold. The world is back to being painted red, but the side plates on all four have this rounded top. And that's going to be kind of the bone of contention here. And they look identical to the same belts that Austin and Dude Love would have a few years later in the WWF. So I don't know if Reggie just repeated the same design and made new belts, or if they brought the old belts back. I don't know what they did, but they look identical to the ones that Austin and Dude Love had, I think, in 98, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was after Austin became champion. I'm pretty sure it was 98. So then we go to, like I said, we're not going chronological order here. We're jumping around. But another version that jumps out to me are the Yoko and Owen version, as well as the HBK and Diesel version from the mid-90s. And they're all gold, obviously 2x5 and 2x8. The backing is black, but you had one rounded side plate. The inner side plates are rounded. The outer side plates have a square cut. So I guess Reggie just felt like playing mix and match. But I think they look great regardless. I just want to point that out. Then you had the 1999 version. So the 99 version is I associate it with X-Pac and Kane and the Acolytes or the APA. And so that's a black strap, but the backing, as you'll see with Undertaker and Austin holding it, as well as the Acolytes after they've won it, the backing is red croc. And these are actually not made by Reggie at this point. These are made by Jamar because they look like Jamar belts. Number one, they don't have a property plate. Number two, the shape of the strap looks like something Jamar would do. They kind of had mismatched logos. It's weird. So they had just a kind of a smaller standard block logo up here, but this logo on the outer side plates is more like encased in a circle, and it's black with a black backdrop, and it has a block logo WWF there. So just some little differences. Those, from best I can tell, just going off memory without having pictures in front of me, those are also 2x5 and 2x8 as far as your snap counts go. So 2x5 female snaps, 2x8 male snaps, and they do have clamshell tooling going around. See, Jamar would switch to logo tooling on like the Big Eagle and such, but he started out, if you look at the block logo Big Eagle, you look at the purple strap Intercontinental, and these, the 99 versions of the tag belts, they are block logo, and they're clamshell and stuff like that. So they're kind of like a hybrid. You know, he didn't go full bore what he would do later, which, speaking of later, we get to the 2K version. Now, these debut January of 2000, and they used them, as best I can tell, unless they replaced them at some point. They used them up until 2002 when the merger happened, or the changeover happened from WWF to WWE, and they brought in, obviously, the Raw Tag Team, the World Tag Team Championships, and SmackDown was the WWE Tag Team Championships, and they separated the brands, right? So the 2K version is a black strap with black backing, 2x5 and 2x8 on the snaps. The tooling around the perimeter of the strap is WWF logo tooling, and you had white scratch logos on not only the top of the main plate, but also on the side plates. And then the property plate, as you'll see with the Hardys holding them here, the property plate is more like a 2K painted in black property plate you'd see like on the 2K version of the Big Eagle. And that was used, like I said, until 2002, because I have photos of Hogan and Edge winning them. And that's pretty much it on these tag belts. I try to keep this one short because it felt like an undertaking trying to get all these different versions. It wasn't as bad as the Winged Eagle, but still, trying to source images and screenshot stuff off YouTube videos and stuff, I was looking to get this one more or less kind of out of the way and move past it. I felt like if I didn't do this episode, somebody would ask for it, so I went ahead and did it. But next week's episode is one I'm actually looking forward to, because I actually have photos, high-resolution photos of the actual belt when it was sold at auction. And that belt is coming next week, and I'm going to keep you guys in the dark. See you next week.